Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning,
The general.
It's been quite a while.
Yes. I know you. I have worked with you.
Yeah.
That's the general Osei Owusu.
Yeah.
But I think for the purposes of this interview, kindly introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Wilfred Owusu Osei. Okay. People know me Osei Owusu, but the real rendition is Owusu Osei.
Oh, I see.
My father is Osei Owusu.
I see.
But you know, Osei Owusu is much more in rhythm. So people, when I was in a disco, try as I did, everybody was mentioning Osei Owusu. So I left
it like take it like that. Even me, I know you as Osei Owusu. Great. So, I mean, just for the record, this is one gentleman that I was privileged to work with very, very closely when I got into active partisan politics. And so we're glad to be with him today, and he's going to tell us about that. I think we should start from, you were a union leader.
Yeah.
Right. So what union were you in? What were activities? And then how were you drafted into the PNDC or AFRC? How did it all start? But let's start from your union days, background.
My union life started way back, even before the revolution. I was then working at Ghana Sugar Estates. A lot of people don't know about it. That's the sugar factory that Nkrumah built in Ashtuari.
Oh. Yeah. So that's Ashtuari?
Ashtuari is Ghana Sugar Estates, Gasel. Okay. And it had two plants, the Ashtuari plant and Commander. And it's the Commander one that, our government tried to, revamp. So I was then there, and that's where I started my union activity. Then 79 happened. So a lot of workers then, because of the serious riots in almost all the public sector companies and, what have you, a lot of the workers were calling for the cleaning exercise to come to their places. So I was house cleaning. So we also had a lot of riots at Ashtuari there. And I guess that's what led to the collapse of the place. So we hailed the coming of the June 4th, and then the house cleaning exercise. And I was at the forefront of calls for government to send a team there to come and also see to deal with the issues there. Unfortunately, the workload was so much, and then they handed over. So I became a target, and I had to resign and came to another gas cell. GASEM, this one is GASEM, Ghana Cement Works. So that there again, I quickly joined the union, and clearly my leadership qualities came to bear, and I was selected the union secretary of the local ICU. But before then, 31st had happened, and I again, spearheaded the formation of the Workers' Defense Committee. So I was at all material times a union leader and a workers leader, leading the workers, whether it was to seek for better conditions, whether it was the labor affairs or trying to get accountability from management, that kind of thing. I was there for the workers.
I see. Interesting. So out of that, how then did you get into the mainstream PNDC activities?
Okay, PNDC activities, again, a little background. I became politically active very early. My father was a member of parliament during 69, during the Busia government, but he was on the other side now, Bedema's party. Okay, so as a young man, I saw all those things. And after the coup of 69, and Ashapon came, we were all very actively observing what was happening. So when the decay started, students were up in arms against the government. All of us got involved. Though then I had just finished secondary school, we embarked on a campaign for for his union government this thing. So through that, I was able to strike a lot of relationship with a lot of the young revolutionaries of those days. So when Rawlings came and handed over, and he formed the June 4th movement was formed. I was also an active participant, part of the people who were organizing community workshops and other things. Imagine me and a group of people after a lecture at Power Hall somewhere. We burst on the streets of Accra, chant the JAJ, sorry, in Liman government, when Liman was in, and we
so chant, you people were the ones who say,
sorry,
about some
yeah,
I see.
So I had, through that, I got notice. So when 31st happened, and we formed, and Jerry made a clarion call to Ghanaians that rise up, organize yourselves, take your destiny into your own hands, and he's calling for a revolution. I didn't need anybody to tell me. Quickly, I got workers into action. We formed our Workers' Defense Committee. I quickly connected with the first coordinating structure, which was Interim National Coordinating Committee of PDCs, headed by Chris Atin, PNDC and INCC. So their office was based in 3rd Bay, 3rd floor, and that was the hub of mass action.
You were the Tema guys.
Yes. So again, my relationship with that setup made them invite me. Actually, Chris and others said, no, they will need somebody like me at the headquarters there for all the PDCs. And they wrote a letter for secondment. So I was seconded from Gassem to come and work at the INCC of PDCs. That's Interim Coordinating Committee.
So this was like the highest coordinating body of all the PDCs, WDCs, etc., etc.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So the main purpose of the INCC was to coordinate and see to the building of, the PDCs throughout the Workers' Defense Committees throughout the country. So we were organizing them, training them, trying to show them how to organize community, and also making sure that they operated according to the guidelines. So we're also spreading the gospel of the revolution, going to the villages, almost all the villages. People were up and doing, trying to mobilize to do something for this country. And INCC was in charge then. So that's also where I cut my teeth in the revolution. Then the system or the INCC leadership decided that no, Tema was then, very, very militant and very, very active. So they decided that no, I should go back there and head and start the secretariat. They gave us a sub-regional status. So you have me and one Mozori, who was also a notable, Robert Mozori, a notable union leader from GAIP, and then a few others. Later on, John, the ambassador, Dan Agbada came to join us, but we were the, core, and the people who started that office. Okay, so I worked there also for 3 years.
That's a Tema.
Tema, yeah.
Regional
this thing. And then we went back by 85. I had this accident, still working for the revolution. And one thing led to that, and I decided to go back. And my career too was also at stake, so I decided to go back to Gassem. So I resigned my position. But it is, at this stage, it is very important for me to mention some of the colleagues who are departed.
Okay, could departed.
Because
I was going to talk about departed, then you talk about those you work with.
Yeah. Okay. And some of them who come to mind immediately is Albert Pinto, a stalwart of the working class movement in Ghana. A lot of people in the trade union and that. He was a colossus. He died about 2 years ago. Amegashi, Samuel Amegashi, who was also more or less a community activist, and they formed the Tema Tenants Association. They were very, 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 very active in those days. You have Sana, a worker of Tema Food Complex, who died during the when we went. Those days when the students were doing the task force, evacuating cocoa to the ports. The workers of Tema were also every weekend going to state farms, who the state farm that had been left unkempt and collapsed, to go and revamp the place, to go and weed the place and get the place, maintained. It was on one of such errands that the Tema Food Complex guys had an accident. And we could go with about 50 bus loads of workers.
You're talking about 50
Yes.
bus loads of workers.
Every workplace, was taking part. I might even be under.
So you all move together to the farm?
Yes, we gather at the community center. You know, our management will give us something for food and other things, and we'll move, you know, in convoy.
Wow.
We'll go and work the whole day and come back. It was on one of these things that the boy, they had an accident and Asana died. You know. So, and then also the most painful, Mike Akpachu. He was the WDC chairman, Workers' Defense Committee chairman for Temafu Community. On the day the NDC was inaugurated. I will come to that later, but because I'm mentioning...
Yes, it's important. You have to say that part now.
Yeah. So I was in charge of the whole mobilization and setup of the party structure in Tema. And I had met them the day before, the night before the day of inauguration, Capos. We had done the assignments, and he said, "Oh, General, I cannot go because he was also a supervisor, so he has some responsibility for the complex. So he will stay, and in the morning he will use his personal car to coordinate, you know, the distribution of buses and also, you know, getting the people ready to move in convoy. Unfortunately, at dawn, around 4 a.m., he woke up in his own car, with fuel by himself, on the Afienia Road. He met his on time. An articulator car crashed into them. There's a surviving witness to this thing. One Ramambedu, who is also currently a union guy at Dapoha. He was with him in the car, and he was driving. So I think the articulator hit his side. So he died on the spot.
Wow.
So on this occasion, I want to salute all of them and call into memory their great sacrifice. And not forgetting Otu of State Fishing, who in the course of the revolution was stabbed. He was fighting. You know, those days, all kinds of things happen on the high seas. When State Fishing, people go for the fish, they try and transfer the fish to other vessels, and he was a WDC guy, and he stood against it. They killed him and threw him into the sea.
Wow.
Then you have a whole lot of many that I can't remember immediately.
May their souls rest in perfect peace.
Amen.
And I'm told, Mike, what happened to the body, the helicopter to be sent for him and all that? But we'll talk about that later. So these are people who sacrificed everything for the cause of the revolution, which later became the party. Now, there were other people that you worked with who are still alive. You were privileged to work with a lot of the people. Can you tell us about some of them? Okay,
I worked with Damak Barakwi. I worked with Guzitano. I worked with Sachs, Ofer and Cancer. I worked with Kofi Sabon. I worked with Julius Lamte. I worked with Hudu Yaya. I worked with Chrisatim. I worked with Kwesi Edu. I worked with Yanyan. I think they are outside. I worked with Yasi Edu. I worked with and many more.
All the gurus that you've mentioned.
Yes.
So are you still in touch with them?
Occasionally. Occasionally.
I think you should all come together one of these days to share ideas.
And on the CDF, this CDF from many, Sam Gaba, and all the leaders of the ACDR at the various times. You know, because I was always in there. You know, and especially for the Tema area.
The PNDC faced a lot of challenges, from the droughts to the return of the over 1 million Ghanaians from Nigeria, to the hauling of the cocoa, to the coup d'etats. You know, we're told that there was a time, almost every month there was a coup d'etat. What role did you play, and can you tell us some of the experiences and how was it like?
Well, yes, all these things that you mentioned really, you know, happened at the same time. It was like a conspiracy. You know, you had a government that had just taken over, and then Nigeria decided to, you know, apply sanction. First, there was a sanction.
Okay.
They blocked the oil supply to Ghana. You know, obviously,
which affected the economy.
Which affected
there
the
were
economy.
long queues.
Yeah, long queues. You know, then you had the drought. You had the drought. You had the repatriation of Ghanaians. Then the other thing that has not been mentioned most of the time, there were internal divisions. You see the point? You had among the, the character and nature of the PNDC is quite interesting. You had all this assembly of people, revolutionaries, or let's say progressives, some from the labor front, some from the student front, some remnants of the Nkrumah era, and all kinds of people. Then Rawlings did the coup and called all of them to come. Mind you, all these various people have not worked together before. Under one command, under one principle, under one guideline. So all of them came as revolutionaries. And their understanding of revolution differed from each other. Some of them have been influenced by Mao Zedong, Marxists, Leninists. You had hardline. Even the Juche. Some of them were pontificating the Juche idea, the North Korea, and all that.
Wow.
The Soviet Union University was the people were reading all kinds of materials. That is this one aspect that people have not looked at. How Rawlings was able to navigate all these things. You had a very, very angry junior ranks, the armed forces who were baying for the blood of their seniors that they're holding responsible for all kinds of things. Then you had all these cadres, all these progressive together and trying to navigate a common cause. You had and then the divisions were very much exemplified by a rivalry between the NDM, New Democratic Movement, which are a lot of the intellectuals that supported. Kwesi was part of it, Chachi was part of it, Chikata, Guzi, Opokuchitri, you name them. They were that. Then you had the hardline June 4th movement, who were with Rawlings in the trenches, that kind of thing. And when all of them came around Rawlings, June 4 people felt that they were with Rawlings when he was being harassed, like they were much more with him, going to the communities and they were with him. Then you had the New Democratic Movement who they were mainly academics, and they thought they knew the theory,
conceptualized the revolution.
So, and they were telling Jerry Rawlings things. June 4 people were telling him, and you had Jerry too, being very conscious of the national imperative of reuniting the country, was able to select people from various backgrounds. If you look at the composition of the PNDC, you look at Justice Annan, you look at PV Obin, where he comes from, what is it? Eboteria, Bibidea Samoa, Osofo Damoa, to give a certain,
broad representation.
He was very sensitive to that. And all these people were also feeding. He respected and gave them respect. And Jerry knew his limitations. So he decided to rely on them. So here is one person, all these heavyweights,
diverse voices
were coming, So he had to, superintend and navigate, various interest groups. But what really created a problem was the rivalry between NDM and then also a struggle over what should be the best course of action with all the difficulties that we had. The people, socialists came to Rawlings gave them the permission, okay, go and see your socialist friend. They went from Cuba.
Yeah, they were led by Chrisati.
Yeah, they went to Cuba, they went to all those places.
And they came back with what? Solidarity message. The revolution will go chop.
Meanwhile, the country was heating up.
Shortage of food,
fuel, and
essential commodities.
Today's generation, if you tell them that, those days people travel in articulated tracks from north to Accra, they will not believe. I had a personal experience.
Exactly. Even me at that young age.
Yes, it's the point. So with the dark situation, all this will happen. And then also the Western, well, were not comfortable at all with what had happened, because as revolution, as is the case with revolution, when it starts, it can spread. And so they were very much worried. And they wanted to contain Jerry Rawlings and that kind of thing. So they also started doing their, acts of sabotage and trying to undermine the government and overthrow the government. And because of the divisions and all this, some people became army plans and for all these kind of moves. Okay, but thanks to the formidable secret set up by Captain Koji Chikata, were able to follow all this. So that was the kind of situation. But personally, for me, as a vanguard, in Tema saw us as a vanguard of the revolution. And because of the way Jerry, he framed his revolution, that kind of thing, workers felt the revolution belonged to them.
It was a sense of ownership.
A sense of ownership. And when it comes to how the party was formed in Tema, I'll tell you how workers contributed from their own, workers, leaders, and ordinary people contributed from their own, because they felt, they owned the process. So at any time that there was signal that the US or there were certain security reports some of the time that US were planning with some of the dissidents to invade Ghana and that kind of thing, I'll mobilize the Tema workers with my brother Pinto, the Soviet president. And we could put about 200 bus loads of workers from Tema to Accra. And that showed the solidarity to send a signal to the outside world that when you come, you are not coming to meet Jerry Rawlings, but you have all these people to deal with.
People. So you were the people demonstrating around the old American embassy.
We went, not that we demonstrated, we took over the American.
You took over? Yes.
The American
embassy. You took over near the ministries?
Yes, I and Peter and others, we led.
See this man.
We took over the American embassy.
And they had to flee?
And then they left the place to the new place.
Okay.
It's the point. So it became like the bulwark of the revolution.
But I think it was very, very strategic, because the kind of things they were doing, that sent a very strong signal that the people were in support of the revolution.
But you see, mentioning the difficulties, this country should be grateful that we have someone like Jerry Rawlings. And his messaging was also good for the time. See, because right now, if you look at what is happening in Ghana, everything is about contracts. Everything is about market. There's no sense of ownership. There's no sense of patriotism, sacrifice, mobilization. Then the economy had collapsed. You didn't even have imports to say that you are going to tax, my brother. So where were you going to have even the money to be giving this silly contract that we are saying for you to be taking the 10% and other things? Even lorry ties. So where were you going to get the imports? The cocoa was locked up in the bush. So we had to. Ghana must be grateful that I had a leader who was able to appeal to the senses and hearts of Ghanaians, and they were willing to do anything for free. The students were, I told you, the workers were, and people were willing to do things. People offered themselves voluntarily. Now, in the heat of that time, there was the issue about the coming out with an economic recovery program, but wages were low, and the workers too were paying for. They were crying for increase in salaries. Can you believe that? By the sheer character and nature of the practice then, they're always talking to the people, being candid with the people. You had a situation where before a budget, Kwesi Botchwey will come to Tema and meet the committee of central committee of the workers working committee there, workers defense committee there, to explain the rationale behind some of the things, the policies that kind of decisions. And he did it so well that at one of the meetings, the workers themselves agreed to a pay freeze for 2 years.
Wow.
That was the extent of connection between the leadership of the PNDC and the people of this country. It is the same thing that led the students to go and abandon the classroom and go and carry cocoa. It is the same thing that led some of us to go and work on the street. I had this. I came to the revolution with my fingers like this. But this one, and you know what? A week after Asana's death, we said that no, we are not going to be deterred by his death. So we went back to commemorate his death at Kwamoso Oil Palm. On our way there, we also had an accident, and that's how come my destiny got deformed. Is that point? So Jerry really was able to carry the whole country, and people were doing all kinds of things, like community farms. You go to close to Tema, you had the Michelle camp, the soldiers had, cultivated a big land, and people, you find people, workers, and all people going there weekends, even community people organizing to go and work. They're free of charge.
And I believe it's also because Jerry led by example.
He was in there.
Yes.
He was in there, hands on.
Yeah.
I mean, at the railway, with the railway workers, I mean, carrying metals for the fixing of the rail network. He was in the farms and all that. So that really motivated a lot of people. But the key thing about PNDC is that style of governance, brought a lot of consensus. And it made a lot of people want to do things for themselves. Said that for every week, you can be sure of this, that you have not less than about 5,000 communities meeting within their community, People's Defense Community, thinking about communal labor, thinking about health centers, how to build health centers. And then our health system had broken down, so we had to use the policy of primary health care. Then primary health care was the one that carried our health system. Then, before money starts flowing, we started doing what we're doing now. And every community this year, the main focus was on community health through the primary health care system. And it was just marvelous. People taking their destiny into their own hands to do things. Right now, all that spirit.
All that is gone. And as I was saying, it was because of the leadership. They said leadership is cause, everything else is effect.
Yes.
And because Jerry Rawlings' leadership was authentic, his lifestyle was authentic. Everybody could see him, the way he lived. He had a small place in the castle that he slept. He wasn't living in a palace. He wasn't flying private jets all over the place. Simple, genuine lifestyle. He was always with the people. And that is what made a lot of the difference. Very interesting. So the various coup d'etats and all that, I'm told that ordinary people actually mobilized to accost some of those. The
very significant one that comes to mind is the June 19th one, where there was an attempt. There was, like you said, almost every week. Okay, and it was coming from two ends. You have those ones sponsored by the Western powers,
external forces,
and then there were also some that tried to happen as a result of the internal division and conflicts, the contradictions. Okay, so June 19th, some of the soldiers rose up against the system, and
is that the Jiwa one?
Jiwa one. Come and see.
Corporal Halidu Jiwa.
Yes. Ordinary people and workers took up whatever they could, ordinary things. Just took barricades to go and block them with shovels and other things. But there was also a lot of military training in them. The cadets, that kind of thing. So though they were not armed, the only people that had some armed were the commandos and some of the militia, but the militias, just a few. But at least they knew how to, accost or confront soldiers and all that. Okay. So they did their bit, and that showed you what that exemplified what I told you, that those days, people were willing to die for this country. And maybe if it had happened, that American and some of them would have gone to the forefront, we could have been killed. Maybe.
And that's when Rawlings talked about democratization of violence. And people didn't understand. People thought that it meant we should just be violent all over the place. But what it meant was that...
But today, ask yourself, how many people want to die for this country?
That's the question. That's the question. Because the leaders are not ready to die for the country. But democratization of violence meant that if many more people know how to use the gun, it will prevent a few who knew how to use a gun to foist it over them or lord it over them. Interesting. So PNDC, all the issues, all the challenges, the economic issues, the division, and then we went into the IMF, and then we started the recovery program and all that.
Now, you see a bit about the PNDC. The PNDC came to meet, like I said, an economy that was broken. And the last time I was telling, in answer my interview, I was telling that there was no economy. It was broken. You know the story already. Nothing was available.
I'm told that we had a triple-digit inflation.
Inflation, yes, over 100%.
Over 100% inflation. Can you imagine?
And then, I mean, we were running on a decline of about 7%.
Minus 7. Economic growth was minus 7.
Yes.
Minus 7.
Minus 7. Okay. Wow. So look at that kind of background. So for the PNDC to have been able to reverse that, block all the loopholes, the little money that was available, use it judiciously and prudently. Focus on the productive sectors. Those days, I worked in Gassing. We import clinker. There was no money for clinker. So for a whole year, we worked just about 2 or 3 months. And that was the situation with most industries in Ghana. Until things started, through this prudent management, things started changing. And then there was foreign exchange, and then we could import things, and the industry started breathing, and we started growing and that kind of thing. But in all that, you see, Rawlings, through the PNDC and his team, were able to lay the foundation. And I'm saying that not just because I worked with them. By the year 1992, we didn't have anything called a non-traditional export. Today, if you ask this government, non-traditional export brings in about 2 billion, almost 2.5. They are saying that they want to target to about 5 billion. You see the point? They were also able to diversify. They started a process of diversifying the economy and brought out cashew and some of these other non-traditional things and set it up. Export promotion. They set up
export promotion. Kwesi Ahoy.
They set up the various schemes to bring some of these in. By the time Akufo came, when he came to say that Ghana was broke, what would Rawlings say? Rawlings said there was no common fund. It was Rawlings who set up the common fund. There was no road fund. It was he who set up. There was no get fund. He set it up. The various funds, So all the people who came after him had
a certain foundation laid.
System
structures.
Structures. He didn't come to meet any of that. That is the work that PNDC did. That people are not accrediting. Look at what our telecommunications. The fact that the whole Ghana, we had only one place to make an international call.
You go and book ahead.
Go and book ahead.
It may sound strange to the current generation, but imagine if you want to make a call
to go to high street to talk
your
to
girlfriend in London, or your mother, or your sister, or your cousin. You book, and then there will be many people there. When your time comes, the call will go through. Then you go and stand in the booth, and then you'll be shouting because it's not clear. I mean, this is real. Today we take it for granted, but that's the kind of situation.
Water, electricity to the north, and all this thing. It is just, fantastic. And they need to be credited for that. And it's that kind of foundation that they laid before we went into constitutional rule. And that is why sometimes when people also criticize him as a dictator, he wasn't a dictator. He was a disciplinarian. And that kind of situation requires somebody who will be very enforce discipline. That money is utilized properly. You fear to mess up with state funds.
So you talk about the recalibration of the entire society.
Society.
Socially, economically, structurally. And then politically, now talk about the constitution.
Let me. You see, when 21st came, Ghanaians were then fed up with the old system, the decay and that. It told on everybody. Like that's why people were running away in droves to other countries and all that, and they were sent back and all that. So when the opportunity came, Ghanaians themselves decided to question almost everything. Everybody was, their subjects were questioning them for some of the things that they were doing. The people in the judiciary were questioning. We at the workplace were questioning. We had a chance, we had a month to question what was happening. So society, Ghanaian society, started asking questions.
There was an awakening of the consciousness of the people.
And the PNDC quickly also put in place structures. And I'm saying this because of what you brought in. The judiciary was looked at, and they saw that the existing judicial system was not serving, the Ghanaian people very well. So two levels. We had the public tribunals, who also had a blend of not only lawyers, but they had some of the ordinary people, also on the panel. Then we also have the what we call the investigative committee of the PDCs, where if you have some issue, that some of those petty things, you and your friend have a problem, you and your aunt over small land and that kind of thing, you could go there as a first step, for arbitration. So the PDCs did a lot of arbitration, and they were trained. Okay. When it came to food distribution, you had a people shop. When it came to rent, which was a big issue during those days, you had a one man, one house. Because then you had a practice where the few state housing that was there were being grabbed by, people, executives and all that. Ronnie said no. If you are a Ghanaian and the Ghana government puts up buildings, you cannot have two. So they set up one man, one house. Because some of the executives of companies, they use the names of their workers and then institution. We have what we call institutional housing, and some number of houses were allocated to the institution, and for the benefits of the workers. Now you find out that as time went on, some of them wanted to the owners of those properties wanted to take the workers out, and then they started, taking only more of those houses than necessary. So the revolution had to put a check on it, and they formed the one man, one house. You had the Citizens Vetting Committee, the kind of thing that OSB is trying to do now. That time we had the Citizens Lifestyle Audit. If we suspected that
all of a sudden,
if we suspected that your lifestyle, your
buying houses and cars for yourself and your girlfriends and concubines.
You had a place to go and answer. You see the point? Before you come to the political structures, reorganize the process. First, he started with the district assembly concept. Again, in line with his desire to give power to the people. Because one of the key and cardinal principles of the revolution was power to the people, giving power to the people. So he tried to reorganize the political system. And first of all, the first foundation was the district assembly. Before even coming to what you talked about, the constitutional government that gave us the higher architecture and all that. So that was, how far the PNDC went. But in between this whole arrangement, there are certain key things that he did. When he took over, because we didn't have almost everything has run to a halt. You had a situation where even the roads to the farms and all those things were all spoiled. So it was very difficult to even, apart from cocoa, people only talk about the cocoa, but even food stuff, food crop, plantain, all those things were brought in. So we had to, I'm telling you how national mobilization came. So first, we set up the national mobilization that was going to the rural areas. We march out big articulator and all those things. And the military were also part of it, where there couldn't be bridges. They do that. This they are military. They are how they call it. They have some bridges. They can put that quickly, and then they will lead the way. I mean, create the access to those foodstuffs, and then with truckloads, we bring the Bailey Bridge. We bring the food items, foodstuff to Accra, to the urban areas. We have people's canteens, and people canteen during those days. You can get enough food at the cheapest price. You have some in Koforidua and Accra and Tema, and then Takwa, where you have huge concentration of workers. The Koforidua one tried many years after PNDC, and that time with 1 peso or something like that, the kind of food you could get, So some of these interventions were very important. So you had a situation where the little essential commodities like sugar, milk, even cloth, the food evacuation and national mobilization will send those things to the rural areas, and then also will bring those things to the. So it was something like a barter system, and these things were very innovative ways, out of the box, to make sure that the system held together.
Wow.
And waited for the better days.
Interesting. I'm sure we're learning so much. So is this the best time to take a break? Then when we come back, we're going to talk about the transition to the NDC, the issues, the dynamics, and then we take it up from there. Welcome back. So it's been very interesting. We're talking to the general himself. He's known as a general, He's the chief operating and strategist. He was at the party office those days, and I was privileged to have worked very closely with him. So whatever skills that you people think I have, this is the man who trained me hands-on, he and Captain Chikata. So we've talked about the PNDC. Now I want to talk about the transition to the NDC. So PNDC did all that, restructured the society and all that. Then we had to get a new constitution and move into constitutional era. What were the issues and how did you navigate them?
Okay. So from, let me say, 31st 81 to late 1991, we then called it the decade that stopped the decay. So having stopped the decay, then you needed to move on. Okay. But those were also interesting times. The PNDC had stayed in power over time, and the course of time there were a lot of issues. The global situation was changing then, and we needed to conform. So the PNDC decided to, put it before Ghanaians, and pose a question whether they are willing or what their view about returning the country to partisan politics. They could have said constitutional rule, but they said partisan politics. Okay. Because it was clear that a lot of Ghanaians were fed up with the party politics in the past. So, NCD was formed, National Commission for Democracy, and they were in charge of the building blocks for the district assembly. After that, then they set up a committee to organize this whole, public engagement to find out where Ghanaians' mind was in terms of the return to the. So the verdict that was returned was that the country was willing to Ghanaians wanted to go back to party politics. Fine. So then became the task of how to go about it. But the revolutionary forces and PNDC have had a question to ask itself: are we just going to leave all this hard work to these politicians that we've known in the past, the same way they are doing, they went about things. No, we can't. I think that we're going to open the contest, but we're also going to organize ourselves into a political party, if that's what Ghanaians want, and also contest. So they went through the various motions, had a consultative assembly. Throughout the past, we've had constituent assembly, where it is the government that appointed the lawyers and other things. 69 happened before the 69 this thing. And then 79, I think 78, there are late 70 or 79. We had a constituent, but PNDC said, in keeping to its policy of broad consensus building, they decided to rather have a consultative assembly
instead of a constituent assembly. And the major difference was that the consultative assembly,
you had a whole lot of people from various backgrounds to be part of of drafting the new constitution. The consultative assembly's role was to come up with the provisions that will, or the kind of ideas, framework that will be used in writing the constitution. They were to do the groundwork, and then you had a committee, a specialized committee, who then use their raw material to put in a technical legal framework. Okay.
Whilst the constituent assembly was mainly made up of technical people and legal people.
Yeah.
And the consultative was broad-based. Involving the people.
We had market women. We had reps of soldiers. We had workers reps. We had chiefs, communities. We had the district assembly that were set up then. All of them made their bar association and all this. They were giving slots, but the Ghana Bar Association, they boycotted it. They said that they couldn't go and sit down with Chowback to write the constitution.
Today they are the ones quoting the constitution. And this constitution is the one that has endured longer than every other constitution in the history of.
But Elvis, one key thing, that also became a negotiating table where you had to trade interests. You see, you were coming to, the power relationship was going to change. We had a situation where Rawlings had sought to give power to the people. And in all the way he did his things, when he setting up committees, he made sure that the ordinary man was, the workers' reps were there, TUC was there, and that kind of thing. Workers had a say in the affairs of their workplaces and things like that. So in the new attempt to do this constitution, you have to find out how you can bring in some of the things like about the one man, one house, that's make sure that there was some fairness, social justice, the things about the tribunals and all these things. That how do you get them into a constitutional framework? So it was a challenge, and that's where the likes of Gusitano, Tony Edu and others, and some of the few PNDC, and 2000 also played with them, some of them, they had to strategize and go and talk, because it was an assembly. So you have to go and make your case.
Yeah.
And you had some of those people some of them came from other recognizable bodies. They were not too much in the same frame of mind like, the PNDC and then the PNDC activists. They thought that we're going back to the same old this thing. So you have to negotiate. And that's how come you have a lot of if you look at the directive principles of state policy, a lot of the revolutionary things have to be put there. But the unfortunate thing is that those things are not actionable. If you go to Article 36, subsection 11 or something, you find there written, the state shall encourage or promote the participation of workers in decision-making at all workplaces. Is it happening?
No.
But it's in the Constitution. No. So you have things like that. And even how to get the national mobilization and thing to be accepted, how to get NCC and some of those STRAG, for instance. STRAG had to be modeled, in a way that will take on board some of the functions of the ombudsman that the worker the CDR offices were actually, operating. So there had to be a negotiation. So that is a point I want to make. Number two, the most interesting bit is what the PNDC decided to do for its self-implementation. There were a lot of divisions. Others felt that we should form a new party, a third force. The key politicians, old guys in the DC, felt that we couldn't form, and Ghana is a duopoly from time immemorial. We had the UP and a CPP tradition. So if we want to go, then it means we have to go in the mode of one of these things. So there was a strong lobby to try and appropriate the CPP. And use the CPP, and then that was championed by our good friends, Captain and Tetega and Awono and some of the people, And then you also had the people, but because PNDC was revolutionary, we couldn't even think about doing anything with the UP. Yeah. So the obvious move was going to be the
CPP, the progressives.
Yeah. So the issue became a very heated in discussion. And there were people who also felt, having been in revolution or in power for 10 years, we should be able to prove ourselves and done things in the interest of this country. We should be able to retain the confidence of Ghanaians, so that if we float a party, we should be sure to have the confidence of Ghanaians behind us. So because of that, there were so many formations. When they announced the return to politics, you had the Dankwa Busia people. Quickly, they had the Dankwa Busia club, because then there was a timetable, and it wasn't time for a formation of political parties. So by like some NGO or some clubs and that kind of, so they had their clubs.
Civil society.
Then you had the Heritage Club, and Nkrumah's listing. You had the NIP. You had the Kwame Nkrumah Revolutionary Guards. You had the something coordinating committee, NCC and National Coordinating Committee of Nkrumahs. And those were Kwesai, CPP, PNDC kind of things, to see if we could mobilize the CPP, people and fraternity, and then maybe take it over and use. But it was the cadres. Well, a few people, I know Obed, for instance, was also, but it was the cadres really. Captain decided to, I think they formed a community. Captain decided to pull a lot of the people in the distance. So, but it was the cadres, when the cadres were called. They said, how? How come? That we cannot over 10 years involved, all the cadres, or you have people all over you cannot form a party. And the old guys, some of them, but you are small boys. We are talking about party politics, this country, tradition, and that kind of thing. But they told them that, no, we believe. So they were challenged.
Yeah.
If this was proof that you have the organization that we can rely on. Okay, so the Guzis, Samkaba, and that kind of, they had a group. So they started work. So in the same vein of not forming declaring, a party, they also decided to form clubs and other things. We had the Rollins Fan Club. We had the Development Union. We in Tema, we used the front.
Okay.
And the cadres were asked to just form cells, create groups. Others were forming the groups. But we in Tema, I took over the formation of the party. And we formed cells. We created cells. And within a space of about 2-3 months, we had created 66 cells throughout Tema. And I share mine with Kantamanso. Simple. But it wasn't that easy. PNDC had to deal with certain internal things. They had to wind up properly. I remember before even we got to the formation of the party, a lot of issues among cadres. A lot of them have been victimized. A lot of them were thinking about what happens to them. They have served the system, though the top guys had some small ex gratia. A lot of them were asking what would be their fate. So there was the famous Scapegoats Conference. It is one of the key determining factors of what really paved the way for them. Because PNDC was going to rely on the cadres to do this. So there was the famous Scapegoats Conference. So all the cadre leaders from throughout the country were brought there, and there was a discussion, a workshop. And the cadres were also making demands that, look, we cannot work for this, and then you just move on with other people and that movement. So they were making certain demands. And there were other things too that needed to be dealt with. Then they had to talk them into just agreeing to just do this tax, because we didn't have the luxury of time to go and be taking care of all these issues. So let's agree to work and create a party, win the victory. After that, we'll come to resolve some of these things. Then also on the labor front, there were a lot of challenges. PNDC had cancelled end of service benefits, which was one thing that workers, cherished most. There was something called consolidated salaries that, came with allowances and all of that. That was the workers felt wasn't in their interest. Then you had the workers' defense committees. A lot of their leaders, like even Comrade Pinto, because they were militants. At a certain point, the PNDC felt they were creating problems for management. Because the little thing they see to obey, and then you have to then letters will fly. We want meeting this and that, So I think that they decided to clamp down on that. But that's where the PNDC did, So just like that, they just started victimizing. So you had a lot of them at home with their cases pending. The guide workers, about close to 200 had been sacked. GTP workers, they attempted to take over. Yao Graham had this event. Some of them were at home, were sacked. A lot of workers who stood up. That time, the country has stabilized. And then it was looking for more productivity, much more refined kind of a way of doing things, going through the motions and that kind of thing. So they didn't want radical, that kind of thing. And I think that's why I fought the PNDC. Is the point? Call us into a room, tell us that look, this, that kind of thing. So look, this one, this is the way we have to do it. But we climbed down on a lot of. So we had a lot of that kind of situation among the labor front. That is why I came in. So when the decision to return the country to this thing happened, quickly I moved us about. First of all, we were 5 and extended to 13. So we did a memo to Jerry Rawlings. Okay, we are here, the cadets of revolution, we got the signals, we want to organize. But we want to tell you that and let me also tell you, around 87, Rawlings had come to a midday in Tema. And that time, the situation was a little bit difficult with some of all these workers' grievances. And he had a whole side reception to the extent that when he was talking, he got angry, he took the mic.
He took the mic.
Wow. So, Tema was becoming a bit hostile. So I had to give him some strategies that we needed to work on before that work can go on very well. So I mooted an idea of a committee. And a worker that will review all the workers' grievances. And that is what became known as a two-ampere committee. After talking to Jerome and he accepting it, he agreed. He asked me to go and to talk to Totobi. So Totobi is a living witness. So they asked, so even we had to, then they said that they needed somebody who is an executive, but also have a worker sentiment, a pro-worker sentiment. So when we said that, he fell on what is it? At Ampia.
Who was then at Gamut?
Yeah, Gamut. He was a manager there, MD.
Yeah.
So he chaired that committee, and they had to review a lot of the cases for some workers to go back. Then with the people like Pinto and GTP and that kind of thing, we had to, call all. We had to get a list. I, Damak Burapi, and then was it Atudazi. And then first when we got the list, but long and short, we decided. Rollins agreed that that issue will also have to be resolved. So all those workers were called back. But Rollins said that the key leaders like Pinto, should be the last to go. So you can imagine Pinto, who has been sacked at home, he was organizing for NDC, for the formation of the party. Then again, you had some of these city issues, Tema, garages and other things being cited, and then the TDC has started doing certain things. So we also had to call for all those things. So there was some kind of engineering. Okay, there was some kind of engineering. So when we finished all that, before we set up the cells, so it happened that after the cell work has been done throughout the whole country, we were called on to show strength. That yes, we have cells all over the country. And the captain said that, look, you can't just come and tell us that you have 66 cells and that kind of thing. All of us, we must inaugurate our cells and branches of the work that we had done. So in Ashama, for instance, we in Ashama, actually they put the DC on 15th, the date for the DC, that 15th May, signifying Rollins this thing. But we couldn't do it on the 15th, so we did ours on the 16th May. Was it 1991, 1991? So that was how come we got people like Vincent Assisi. Vincent Assisi was not part of the PNDC. Like, no. It is through our organization. I had to work with Amegashi to go and knock his door. And we pulled them in, and a whole lot of Emma Michel. We brought in Emma Michel and all that kind of thing.
Minister of Trade.
Minister of Trade. So we got them to go and speak at the Shama event. And at that event, we had video recording. We recorded everything. And it was sent to National Security. Can you believe that? The following day after the event, BNI, then this Kudalo, he was in charge of them. He invited me. He said they should look for me. They couldn't believe that we could do this thing without their notice. That we were organizing quietly. And had 66 cells. So when they had information that something was happening this, and then the front was going, and they saw the crowd, and then also the speakers and that kind of thing, they couldn't believe that they could do this thing, and we could organize this thing, and they, the BNI, wouldn't have a quick of it. So that was a kind of organization. But let me say this, that the people who did the work then, and this is coming to who really formed the NDC, people are trying today to say that they did it. The persons who led the organization, apart from me, myself, a workers leader from Gasson, we had Akpachu, a workers leader from Tema Food Complex. Pinto, Albert Pinto, a workers leader from GAIP. Then we have Amegashi, who was the chairman of the Tema Tenants Association.
Still alive?
No, he died.
Okay.
He's about 4 years back. And then, but there's one of them, the secretary, Bismarck Ashite, he is alive. Okay. He's almost in his 90s now. They were the ordinary people who came together to do all the legwork. That time, no person came from head office. When we were doing all these things, it was my pocket money. Some of that we call them. Guzi helped us a lot. Our own small resources. When we're coming, we formed that group. And the strange thing about it is that when we send our memo to General Rollins, I told him we did a memo, and they called us and we discussed, and he found that this is very decent. We started working on it, and he gave approval for that kind of thing. He himself said that, look, he will coordinate us for some time. So we were going to give him, we were working, and Rollins, I mean, he wouldn't give him money. He didn't have the money and that kind of thing. So we were working on our own. The only thing he did to support us was that he said we were struggling too much. So he got W. Tete to get an old one of the 6 cars to be refurbished and given to Amigashi to be helping doing the runs. So it is ordinary people like that listen. But we were very, very strategic. Whilst we built all these cells, about 66 cells in Tema, we also formed what we call the executive cell. And later on, that is what became our resource base. There's a famous, and it's also dead, a famous transporter in Tema then called Yiti Mensa. I don't know if you know it, Community 5. When you mention people who have been in Tema for long, they know him. So we were meeting in his house. We invited, the big guys in Tema were meeting that we were able to get, like Emma Michelle, and like some of the big executives in Tema who we were able to convince. They wouldn't want to associate with this thing, so we had that cell there. We had someone like the Ghana Publishing Chief Executive. We have someone like Commentru who died, the ports, and we had some clearing agents, executives, and all that. And they were Captain Chachu and Guzi even attended some of those meetings. I invited them to attend some of those meetings then. So it was that group who then were giving us some stipends there to support the whole organization. So nothing came from national. So the NDC today that people will wait for Accra to give them something. It was built from bottom up. The initial voluntary and then sacrifice by ordinary people. The very first time that we had something coming was the day that we were going to go for the inauguration, Cape Coast to do the inauguration. And they said, okay, how many people could we mobilize? And we gave them the numbers. And they brought us buses to join and go and come. And it was with that kind of organization, and in the course of that, that someone like Mike Akpachu lost his life. So that was a kind of work.
Voluntarism, sacrifice, networking, commitment, community engagement, which is lacking in today's organizational system. So now the NDC became a party. 1992, we went into government and all that. At what point then did you move to the party office? What was your role? Because that's where I met you. Interesting.
After doing all this paid work, grassroots, I was still at the grassroots. Though I had worked at the top PNDC time and the movement. So after the victory, a lot of the people who did the work, a lot of people mobilized, they came like the same spirit of voluntarism, boosting them and all those people who they were all doing things at the party headquarters. After all of them went back. Then the party office became more or less depleted. Some of the people who were there as executives had gone for take positions, in government positions. So it was depleted. So I think there was a meeting at the castle to see how to, get the place revamped so that the work of the party can be strengthened. So it was there and then that it was Jerry Rollins himself that said that there's this guy in Tema. So it was Jerry that asked that quickly they should write a letter to my employers so that I go second
to the party office.
Second to the party office.
Wow.
You see? So when we went there, then we started work. Then Ajikum too had also it was the same thing that also brought Ajikum.
Okay.
Ajikum was also brought as a deputy youth organizer. So we had appointments then.
Okay. So your appointment was
Deputy National Propaganda.
Okay.
But we were doing much more operations.
Yes.
So then when we went, who was the General Secretary? Alaji what is it? Ali Isufu Ali
Isufu Ali
was the chairman with the co-chairman
Munufi
and others. So we went to work. But for the first thing I noticed was that, we didn't have hands to do real grassroots work. So we on our own, supported by Guzi, we set up the unit that you came to meet. I got about almost extended the about 22, but the call was about 7 or 8. That's when Mingle and some of the other some of those people came around, And the main thing was that we didn't have much information. Some of them hear this thing. So you needed that group so that you do troubleshoot. When you pick information, people can go and verify. And then we also had outreaches because by I think 1994-5, after the victory again, the government was so much interested on governance that they left the party.
Yeah.
So quickly, it became so glaring that there was going to be a disconnect. So the government then decided to, or the party then decided to do what we call a national outreach team, which the current party is not doing, and it's very bad. We had groups made up of people from government, people from 31st, people from the cadets, women's groups, and they were considered on regional basis, and they were given resources, go and spend about 10 days or 1 week in this region, talk to the people and bring feedback back. But that was being done once a while.
Okay.
But this my group, who I was sending. It was the time we decided to go Tema area. We decided the whole Tema, So we come there. If you are the chief executive there, they will call you and tell you that kind of thing. So we'll come and talk to party people, have town meetings, and especially where there are problems. We'll try to talk, help resolve it. If we are not unable, we'll send reports. So at any particular time, the national headquarters had, real-time information about what was going
on. And then I remember when I came, I could see, messages will come and then people would be deployed that same evening, and they would travel through the nights and go and solve problems.
So troubleshooting was very, very important, and we were getting frequent. And then we also profiled that. I don't know if we provide the whole constituencies, so that if you as a German from the party office, I could even tell who is the police commander there, who is how many the leading school there, the head teacher and that kind of thing. And we try also to know their political leanings. The opinion leaders, we have a list of opinion leaders. Who are the opinion leaders and all those things. So the office had information. Elvis, of late that collation of election results have been coming. You remember those days? Even without the technology, it is the same group that was the center and the hub of collation of results. With Tony Edu at the so-called strong room. We were at the party office, and for 2 days we won't go home, and we'll be taking results from all the days. By, let's say, the close of the second day, we have, if not done everything, about 90%. I remember one day we were there late in the night, I don't know. And then Konedu will be calling, President Rollins will also be calling and checking us, so where are things, and they will be giving a report. So at the same, I remember about the 1996, when it got to some point, we told them, we had won. That time nobody knew, but we were always ahead of the thing. Konedu even came to the party office, very happy to cheer us up and to celebrate with us, and left. So that was the efficiency with which we worked during the
hands-on the ground, And like I said, I was privileged to understudy people like him, and I learned so much, and I'm grateful that I had this privilege. So now we're in 2023, going into 2024, looking into the future. How do you see the country? How do you see the party? What should we do in order to sustain the party? There are a lot of young, dynamic people who have come into the party, but they may not have had all these experiences. What can we do to move the party to the next level?
Yeah, okay. In my view, the 2024, or currently, I mean, NDC is in a pole position to win the 2024 elections. I mean, barring any rigging by the EC and NDC, which is why the NDC must be very vigilant this time around, learn from these mistakes, are very, very unacceptable mistakes, if they can correct that kind of. I mean, the country is just in it, so it's a given. It's almost a given that NDC will win the winner. But the state of the party, and frankly, this victory in 2024, it's not going to be on account of the strength of the NDC or having done anything extraordinary, but it is because of the serious failure.
Colossal failure.
And we cannot live with that. You may have opposition government that will maybe doing something or may not fail this abysmally. So you need to build a party, and then once you also build a party for the future, you need to, I mean, lay good foundation. If you look at the party, even if you look at the results, if you do the trend analysis, you know, electorally, we are becoming weak. Okay. Then also the NDC over the years should have also noticed that the population dynamics are changing. First time when we were at the party was in the early 90s, they will tell you that the rural-urban divide was 60, let's say, yeah, those are 60 rural, 40 urban. Right now, it's almost changed. Then you have the youth also becoming the population is much more youth-based. All these things will have to be taken into consideration. But for me, the bigger thing for the NDC to do is to reorganize. And look at some of the things. And then reorganize. Unfortunately, when we say reorganization, the NDC just sees that as every 4 years going to have elections at the branches that don't exist. You know, but when they ask people call their friend and then they just give you a list that these are the branches, and then constituency election, and we call that reorganization. No, as a party of the character and nature and historical, you know, antecedent like this thing, should have its clear-cut vision and mission, which must be espoused in a clear-cut political program. That's the beginning of the reorganization. Something that distinguishes the NDC from the NPP in terms of political objectives, in terms of the social forces that this party, I mean, is biased towards, in terms of methods of, you know, how you practice your organization,
objectives
to achieve organization. That one has to be, I mean, spelled out so that people, even new people, when they are coming, they will know that this is what this party stands for. That today, if let's say there's an educational squeeze somewhere, quiz somewhere, and they ask the SS student or that kind of, or GSM, oh, so what do you know NDC stand for? Their philosophy is ABC. We should have that. And then they can say that NPP then. But right now, it's blurred.
It's not clear.
That is the first phase. Secondly, we have time and tested ways of doing things. We don't seem to have institutional memory. We seem to be divisive. We don't want to open up. There's too much exclusion in the party. This is the point. We should open up so that we can get the full benefits of the total expertise and mind that is, I mean, resident in the party. I mean, the way we do things to say that, oh, these people come and they are and with their people in parliament, and like they don't want, they see other people as a threat, and you want to mobilize your outside constituency. You don't even the people within. For instance, this election, I haven't seen any preparation on the ground. That's like even organizing this is own constituency from the when I say constituency, people who have been in the party from the past, people who are, you know, and then see how we can unite ourselves. Because people think that it's almost a victory. So I mean, victory is lying down, and this is so it's a done deal. So let us go, and when you go, but you have to look at the future. So for me, these things are very, very fundamental.
Wow.
Then also, our structures on the ground. The kind of situation in which we are now, if we are going to use the same methods that we used before, like the market and market strategies and contracting strategies, some of the things we have to do through mobilization. You can only mobilize when you have branches, effective branches on the ground. So we must teach our branches how to mobilize. What is it that a party branch executive is required to do? Right now, a lot of them have responded, they've gone to register and they're taking position, but they don't even know what to do. If you even ask them to give you even the characteristics of their branch, their area, they don't know. But a party like NDC should be able to have branches that are very active. For instance, this is why I'm mentioning the lesson. Do you know why the first VAT, that PNDC, that NDC implemented, failed, and had to happen, and then Akwadun became popular? The PNDC over time also started losing some of its, when we came to NDC, organizational things. Previously, such a policy would have come before the party and would have discussed internally. Branches would have discussed. So even before the thing is announced, you have Ghanaians understanding. But when the policy came, because it was even not, even the working of it wasn't very clear. People didn't even understand what this whole VAT thing was. So the opposition was able to quickly, So when Kumiprekon happened, and it was withdrawn, you know what happened? They called a meeting. And the party made this point. I remember Hudu and Vincent and all those. We made all the point that how can you come out with such a policy, major policy, without letting the party play its role to even discuss it within the party and within our structures
and own it?
So when it was this, you know what happened? They brought Setepe and others to us. So we, then he was the head of the VAT. He was the secretary. So the party then had to organize fora throughout the country. And then Setepe had to training of trainers program. And some of these people were sent throughout the country to discuss. After those rounds, when it came to the second introduction of the list, it passed easily.
Because there was enough sensitization.
So the party has a role in governance. But it's like when we vote and the person gets power, then he forgets the party structures. The party has no role in the decision making. In some Eastern countries that I visited, it is the party before the manifesto, like next year that we are going to do. By now, every region, they have a composite kind of way of doing it. Every region, and every region in a party, in their party, they know, and also every constituency know the number of schools, the number of school children, their levels of performance, and the health situation, and they have a plan. At least that they propose. That we have this level of enrollment here. The target of the party is that if we could get the enrollment to so much, we have this kind of problem with water here. If we can get this, they do that out of them. Then the national will go and sit down, see the resource envelope, and then be able to plan. Tell you, we'll be able to do this, we'll be able to do that. But these ones can wait. So when they go to their party congresses, my brother, they don't just go and elect officers. These are the things that they go and discuss. They finish all these things before they do the elections.
They do the elections. Well, ours has become something else, It's about transport and money and gas cookers and fridges and DSTV and TVC. I mean, something must shift. And thank you. So your general advice to the youth as we bring the discussion to a close, because they are the future.
What I would say is that in our days, there was a lot of activism. And we confronted the issues of society as we met them. We were active in the schools, we were active at the labor front. Those days, even TUC was organizing, they were speaking on national issues and coming in. It looks as if there's too much, we are too tolerant. The youth of today are too tolerant. And they seem to be in a certain comfort zone. I don't know whether they have given up all that. But what they need to know is that nobody is going to come to solve the problem of this country for them.
Exactly.
Even if they decide to go outside, they will go and come back and still lament. So they have to come together and start calling on leadership to do the right thing. So kudos to those people who, Voma and his people who organize. We need more of those. And so long as the people who take decisions believe that they can do anything and nobody will talk, they will continue doing the decision. And for me, one of the things that I believe that the youth should say no to is galamsey. And it is something that they should be very vehement about because it is their future. If your rivers are being polluted, the rivers the life in the rivers are dying. Your forests are being degraded.
Cyanide
and everything. It is the future. Your agricultural lands are being destroyed. It is that is what at the end of it, if everything doesn't work, it is the earth. When God created it, He gave us the earth, and that's where everything starts. So if that is what we have, is being destroyed, the repercussions are just too bad. And if we ask the senior generation, unfortunately, this is what we're doing to them. They shouldn't sit down. They shouldn't sit down. They should be on the streets more. They should be in the offices of politicians and duty bearers more, and ensure that the right thing is done. Because without that, we couldn't have had some strikes that we had in the past. That later on people came to derail. So the youth must be up and doing.
Wow. Thank you, General.
I haven't spoken like this for long, so you have really exhausted me.
And thank you so much. And let me put it on record that when it comes to ground operations and organization, this is the man who taught me. Practical. Elvis, go here, do this, do that. And then Captain was the one who was teaching me the strategy.
But there's one bit that just 2 minutes. I believe that for 2024, though, everything is pointing to a clear victory for NDC. I believe the party must not take this for granted. I expect the party by now to have, for every region, for every constituency, they must have a preparatory plan. From now to the end of December, what is the party headquarters expecting constituencies to do, to be in place, in pole position? What are the regions? They should give them tasks. The national itself, they should give themselves some time that by December, we should be able to have this and this in place. Then you follow up from the year program from January next year to all these things should be done now. Constituencies should know that by March next year, we should have A, B, C, D in place. You see, election is not an event. It's not that one day. It's a process. And there are ways to even strike relationship. Look, we should teach our people, and some of us are willing to assist, how to strike relationships with the security people in our. It shouldn't be just our party these days is too much top heavy. We should teach our constituencies, our chairman, that they should have a plan how to be able to strike some distance with the police commander in the area, the people in the area that hold power, the chief and that kind of thing. Then who are the media men? Even the EC. Who are the EC people there? Can we befriend one or two of them? You see, that's when you have an operation going. So you do all these things, and the media, how you cultivate them. So by the election day, 9th or 7th December 2024, you have,
network, relationship, structure, systems.
So that when anything, you'll be on top of it. This is the last one that I want to rub in.
This is the field marshal. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been enjoyable. You need to get us Guzi.